Jumpin In on Manx Radio.
With Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello.
Good evening.
And welcome. And here we are again, of course, Saturday night, 9 o'clock on Manx Radio. The best in modern and contemporary jazz in Jumpin In with myself, H.
And me, Chris. Yes, welcome along to this week's Jumpin In on an important weekend in the sporting calendar. The Euro finals, the Wimbledon finals, the Tour de France Champs-Élysées final sprint, and then what? Well, no more shouting at the box. Sports take a rest from our TV schedules, and you can put a few weeks aside in the summer dedicated to the family, conversation, barbecues, and uninterrupted jazz listening. So what's been coming home for you this week, H?
Against my better wishes, we might be having 5 for England with Mike Gibbs, some great stuff from Jazz in Britain. Maybe a look through a prism and a new one from Slowly Rolling Camera.
And from me, province of Equatorial Guinea, the capital of Ethiopia, a self-propelled deep-sea submersible to get things underway, a little water music. Here's Quiet Flows the Aspen River from Finland's Espoo Big Band, or the EBB as they're known. nice indeed. Quiet flows the Aspen River, not that quietly. From
not that quiet, no.
What could possibly be described as Finland's best export, the Espoo Big Band. Formed back in 1980, the band has continued to flourish under the direction of conductor, composer, arranger and guitarist Martsi Nyman, who with his recently released Espoo Suite has endeavoured to paint a musical picture of the capital's landmarks, in this case the Haparanda or Aspen River in Norrbotten County. A lovely suite this, and indeed a fine tenor solo from Manuel Dunkel toward the end there. With over a dozen fine albums to pick from, the EBB definitely one to look out for on the world stage, and they do, COVID allowing, frequently tour, and they pop up with lots of top names as guest soloists.
Great stuff. Enjoy that, and yeah, wonderful sound as well. Again, it's just goes to prove the big band lives. How on earth they get it to work or pay or these days, I don't know, but there seems to be a great number of big bands from all parts of the world making a fantastic sound, and what a joyous thing it is to behold, the sort of the modern big band sound. Great stuff. Not a big band, but a great band, Slowly Rolling Camera, have been around for a few years. They've got a new one coming out at the end of this month on the Edition label, and handily, their piano player or keyboards player, David Stapleton, or Dave Stapleton, I should call him, happens to own the label as well, which is rather good. He plays Fender, Rhodes, Moog, Prophet and piano. Like I said, they're following up on their Juniper album from 2018 with this new one. It is very fine. I haven't heard all right the way through to the end yet. I've heard the first few tracks. It sounded cracking stuff. They've got some marvellous guests in as well. Let's have a listen. This track's called You Are the Truth.
Hello, this is Bugge Wesseltoft, and you're listening to Jumpin In at manxradio.com.
Lovely stuff that released just before his 80th birthday, drummer and composer Aldo Romano. The project was called...
He's 80, is it good, Lord?
He is 80, hard to imagine, isn't it? That's because we're getting old age, I'm afraid to tell you that. Reborn was a project commissioned by Le Triton, one of Paris's best jazz haunts, back in May 2019, where they gave him a carte blanche to bring back reunions and evocations of his 50-plus year musical career. That, of course, was Annabon, and the eagle-eared among you might have recognised the track from Henri Texier's very fine Carnet de Route in 1995. And again, that was recorded there with lifelong companion and friend Henri Texier unmistakably on the bass, as well as Mauro Negri on clarinet and saxophonist Géraldine Laurent. It's a great album, this, and there's 4 totally different lineups with from different parts of his life throughout it. And if you're unfamiliar with Aldo Romano's work, really good place to start.
And Henri Texier as well, fantastic bass player, lovely chap. We did speak to him very briefly once. I don't know how good his English is. We'd love to have a chat with him. I don't think we could interview him in French, but it'd be a lovely thought. Before that, we heard the latest from Slowly Rolling Camera, the album due out on the 23rd of July. It's called Where the Streets Lead on Edition Records, featuring Dave Stapleton, the owner and producer of Edition, on keyboards, Derry Roberts on production and sound design, and Elliot Bennett on drums, which is the core of Slowly Rolling Camera, with an amazing lineup of guests, including Mark Lockhart. Yeah, check this out. Mark Lockhart, Jasper Hoyby, Veneri Piola, Chris Potter and Sachal Vasandani, as well as the band's regular guitarist Stuart McCullum. Quite a lineup, I think you will agree. Where the Streets Lead is the new album. It's described as being a collision of the worlds of jazz, trip-hop and cinematic soundscapes, the music blending strong melodies, big grooves and surprising turns of phrase, infused with expansive, emotional gravitas. I wouldn't disagree with that. It's one you could listen to at home, you could listen to in the car. It sort of goes through various different moods. Still enjoying it at the moment and definitely worth checking out, and you'll be able to get it, if you wish, you can get it on 180G vinyl later this month. Just 200 copies of that in a lovely ash grey, I'm told. That'll be all right if you like your vinyl. It is Jumping In with Chris and myself, H. Now, this is against my better thoughts, really.
Get it over
It
with.
is the football coming up on Sunday, isn't it? Heaven forbid. And I have been really enjoying Mike Gibbs' Tanglewood, revisiting Tanglewood 63, the early tapes on the wonderful site, which is Jazz in Britain. Some cracking stuff there. And this one just happens to be called 5 for England. I'm going to have to play it, aren't I? Yeah, I know. Yeah. What an ending. Some great drum rolls there from John Marshall, the great John Marshall at the kit there. Tanglewood 63, the early tapes on the wonderful album from Mike Gibbs. It's actually taken from a BBC tapes of that time. There's some great new stuff coming out, I believe, on Universal Decca's series British Jazz Explosions, being launched this month, July, with double album sampler Journeys in Modern Jazz and such like. But Jazz in Britain, fantastic site to go if you haven't checked it out. If you go to Bandcamp and see Jazz on Britain have made these previously unavailable BBC radio recordings from May and November of 1970 available, called Tanglewood 63, the early tapes. That one, as I say, is 5 for England. Nothing to do with Sunday's match. Someone will win, one or the other. Fantastic things, yes. Gibbs and his orchestra recorded Tanglewood 63, the album, for Durham in 1971, and this was recorded a little bit earlier on, taking its title from the 2-month summer school at Tanglewood, the home of the Boston Pops, at which Gibbs in 1963 was one of a dozen or so young composers who studied there with Aaron Copland. He was a bit dismissive of him, apparently, but later on in life said, oh, it was just youthful bravado. I don't know if he said he was rubbish at the time, but go, yeah, well worth checking out. Really good stuff on that one. I've been really enjoying that for the last week or so, and a great lineup of all sorts of who's who of British jazz. Nigel Carter, Henry Lowther, Henry Beckett on trumpets, Chris Byrne and Mike Gibbs on trombone, and Mike Gibbs, of course, directing the whole lot. Dick Hart, tuba, Alan Skidmore, Stan Sultzman, Tony Roberts on saxes and reeds, Chris Spedding, guitar, great work there. Mick Pine, piano and organ, the great Roy Babington on the bass, Jeff Klein also on bass and some numbers, John Marshall, I think, on the drums on that one, Clive Thacker as well, and Frank Ricotti on percussion. But check out Jazz in Britain, good stuff.
A lot of good stuff from Mike Gibbs and his orchestra too, including the Chrome Waterfall Orchestra, they were called at one time.
Yeah, that's right.
And the original Tanglewood album is worth a listen as well. What they've done is got access to these tapes, giving live versions of quite a lot of studio sets, which are extended and sometimes with additional pieces, like the great Kaleidoscope of Rainbows from Neil Ardley, which we haven't fitted in yet. Now, new music from Austria, a country perhaps better known for waltzes and chocolates than jazz. Perhaps if this debut album from Graz-based quintet Elinor, that's Elinor with a little E and everything else capitalised, is anything to go by, that could be set to change. Here's their album opener, Addis Ababa. Elinor there with Addis Ababa, the opening track from their new CD, Von Oben, which is, I'm sure, as German language scholars will tell you, means from above. And their initial release certainly gives an aerial view of the award-winning band's complex yet swinging compositions. We'll be hearing more from them in the future, I'm sure.
I'm sure as well. You're listening to Jumpin' In with Chris and myself, H. We've got some second rhythm. It's Prism. Sonny Rollins from, again, recently released on the wonderful Resonance labels, Rollins in Holland, live and studio recordings from the 1960s featuring Ruud Jacobs. And would you believe, Han Benning, yes, he of throwing chairs downstairs as a percussive effect on the drums. He could play, really could play. And he still does, it's just he's a bit more organised then.
He's run out of things to sit on, that's what it is. Well, that's just about it for this week's show. More interviews to come, starting next week with a conversation with New York composer and pianist Ben Rosenblum. But for now, we've just got time to leave you with a track from bassist Hubert Dupont, trumpeter Antoine Béjou, and former loose tuba drummer Steve Arguelles, as well as some electronics. Collectively known as Trio Cosmos, here's Bathescape from their recently titled Self-Release. See you soon.
Look after yourselves.
Bye for now.